The notification popped up on my phone, a little red badge I almost swiped away, but something in the thumbnail caught my eye. It was Angela, my older sister, her face perfectly angled, a tear artfully placed next to Paisley, my younger cousin, who was doing that influencer pout she perfected at 16. The caption read, "Heartbroken to say goodbye to our beloved Grandma Marissa, so grateful for family togetherness in these difficult times." My stomach dropped. Grandma Marissa was dead, and I, Paris Griffin, her granddaughter, found out on Instagram. I scrolled through the carousel of photos. Angela, 33, and Paisley, 25, in matching black dresses, posing in front of a flower arrangement. My mother, Rhea, 55, looking suitably solemn. Not a single photo of me, not a mention in the gushing tributes, and definitely no call. The obituary which Angela had linked didn't even list my name. It was like I, at 29, had ceased to exist the moment I married Bryce Nichols, my kind, incredibly normal husband. The last time I saw Grandma, she was 68, frail but still sharp-witted, her eyes twinkling as she slipped me a $20 bill. "Don't let them dim your sparkle, sweetheart," she'd whispered, right after my mother had openly scoffed at the perfectly nice, if not designer, dress I was wearing. "It's just not us, Paris," Rhea had said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Grandma Marissa had squeezed my hand. Now that sparkle was gone, and so was she. The grief hit me in waves, sharp and cold, mixed with a white-hot anger that made my hands tremble. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of performative sorrow. Bryce, 32, ever the calm in my storm, found me staring blankly at the screen. He wrapped his arms around me, his touch grounding. "I'm so sorry, babe," he murmured into my hair. "They're awful." "Awful doesn't even begin to cover it," I choked out, tears finally blurring the smug faces on my phone. To be erased so completely after years of being cut off felt like a final brutal blow. Later that evening, as I was trying to numb the ache with bad TV, my phone buzzed again, this time an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but then a voicemail notification popped up. A crisp, professional voice, a man named Mr. Davies, left a message. "Ms. Griffin, this is regarding important matters concerning your grandmother, Marissa Zimmerman's estate. Please call me back at your earliest convenience." My heart hammered. What could he possibly want with me? I stared at the voicemail notification, the lawyer's crisp tone echoing in my head. "Important matters regarding the estate." It felt like a cruel joke. For years I'd been persona non grata, an unperson, and now suddenly I was important. I wanted to ignore it, to let the silence be my answer, but a nagging curiosity, mixed with a sliver of hope for what exactly, kept me from deleting it. A day later, after a lot of internal debate and Bryce's gentle prodding, "What's the worst that could happen, Paris? More the same?" I called Mr. Davies back. He informed me in a tone that suggested this was all very normal, that Grandma Marissa's will reading was scheduled for the following week at his office. My attendance was highly recommended. The news hit me harder than I expected. The lake house. That's what came to mind immediately. It wasn't just a house, it was where I'd spent every summer until I was 18, a sanctuary filled with Grandma Marissa's laughter and the smell of pine needles. It was where she taught me to fish, to bake, to believe in myself, even when Rhea and Angela were chipping away at my confidence. After I married Bryce, that sanctuary, like my grandmother, had been systematically cut off from me. The pain of that exclusion, of losing not just family, but a place that felt like home, was a wound that never quite healed. "Are you going for closure or for a fight?" Bryce asked later that evening, watching me pace. He knew me too well. "Does it have to be one or the other?" I muttered, running a hand through my hair. "Maybe I just want to see their faces." Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Paisley. So sorry about Grandma Paris. It's just awful. Hope you're doing okay. Followed by a string of crying emojis. Classic Paisley. A performative olive branch, undoubtedly sent at Ria's insistence to maintain the illusion of family unity. I scoffed. They thought a text could erase years of silence. A cold resolve settled over me. Closure? Revenge? Maybe both. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I walked to my closet, pulling out a garment bag from the back. Inside, carefully preserved, was that dress. The one Ria had mocked, the one Grandma Marissa had defended. It was time for a comeback. The lawyer's office was predictably sterile, all polished wood and hushed tones. I walked in, head held high, wearing the dress. It was a simple, elegant navy blue, not flashy, but it wasn't from a boutique my mother approved of, and that was enough. The air in the waiting room was thick with tension, a palpable hum of expectation and resentment. Angela, Ria, Paisley, Aunt Rachel, and Angela's husband Joshua were already there. Their heads snapped up as I entered, and for a split second, their carefully constructed masks of grief slipped, revealing raw shock and fury. Angela's jaw tightened, Ria's eyes narrowed to slits. Paisley, ever the performer, instinctively reached for her phone, then thought better of it. Aunt Rachel, my mother's sister, just looked away, her usual quiet bitterness more pronounced. Joshua, a slick accountant who always seemed to be calculating angles, offered a tight, almost imperceptible nod. Paris, Angela said, her voice dripping with saccharine disapproval. So glad you could make it. We almost thought you wouldn't bother. She glanced pointedly at my dress. After all this time, I wouldn't miss it, I replied, my voice steady, meeting her gaze. Grandma Marissa meant a lot to me. Ria chimed in. It's a shame you chose to distance yourself, darling. Family is everything, especially now. The hypocrisy was so thick I could almost taste it. Aunt Rachel, who was 57, usually just echoed Ria, but today she just muttered, Some people just don't understand how things work. It was a quiet jab, clearly implying I wouldn't be getting anything. I noticed the subtle shift in her demeanor, a new edge to her usual passive-aggressive remarks. She looked expectant, almost. As we waited for Mr. Davies, I observed them. Angela and Joshua huddled in a corner, whispering, Angela occasionally shooting me venomous glances. Ria kept adjusting her expensive scarf, her gaze flitting nervously around the room. Paisley was meticulously fixing her hair in a small mirror, occasionally glancing at me with a strange mix of curiosity and disdain. The family togetherness they'd flaunted on Instagram felt like a fragile facade, ready to crack. Mr. Davies finally entered, a stack of papers in his hand. He cleared his throat and the room fell silent. Thank you all for coming. We are here today for the reading of Marissa Zimmerman's last will and testament. He went through the usual formalities, bequests to charities, small sums to distant relatives. Then he paused, looking directly at me. And finally, he stated, his voice clear and resonant, to my beloved granddaughter, Paris Griffin, I bequeath my entire property located at Lakeview Drive, including the house and all its contents. A collective gasp ripped through the room. The room exploded. What? Ria shrieked, her face turning crimson. Angela, usually so composed, looked like she'd been slapped. That's impossible! The lake house? To her? Her voice rose to a furious pitch. Paisley, bless her heart, immediately pulled out her phone, her lower lip trembling as she started a live stream, muttering, Guys, you won't believe this. I'm literally crying right now for Grandma. Her tears looked suspiciously dry. Joshua, ever the opportunist, stepped forward, attempting to project an air of calm. "Now, Paris," he began, his tone unctuous, "I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. Perhaps Grandma intended for the house to be shared, for the good of the family. You know, do the right thing." He gave me a knowing look as if we were co-conspirators. I just stared at them, a strange mix of shock and icy satisfaction washing over me. Mr. Davies, unflappable, simply repeated, "The will is clear. The property, valued at approximately $2.3 million, is bequeathed solely to Paris Griffin." After the reading, I made my way to the lake house. The drive felt surreal. Every turn brought back a flood of memories. Summers spent swimming, fishing off the dock. Grandma Marissa teaching me to identify constellations. The house itself, nestled among the pines, looked exactly as I remembered it. Stepping inside, the familiar scent of wood smoke and old books enveloped me. I walked through the rooms, each one a time capsule. In Grandma's study, a small, ornate box sat on her desk. Inside, beneath a stack of old photographs, candid shots of me and Grandma, laughing, fishing, baking, I found a letter. It was addressed to me in her elegant, slightly shaky script. "My dearest Paris," it began, "if you are reading this, it means I am gone and the family has likely made a spectacle of themselves. I know the pain they've caused you, the way they tried to erase you. This house, my sweet girl, is more than just bricks and mortar. It's a testament to your strength, your resilience. It's a piece of justice, a small way to right the wrongs. They thought they could control everything, but some things, like love and truth, can't be bought or manipulated. Use it wisely, my clever girl. Make them remember what they lost." Tears blurred my vision. It wasn't just love, it was vindication. Grandma Marissa hadn't just loved me, she had understood. She had seen their cruelty and had found a way to deliver a final exquisite blow. My phone buzzed. A text from Angela. "Emergency family meeting at the lake house. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. To solve this. You are not invited." I smiled. Oh, I was definitely invited, and I had a lot more than just a house to bring to the table. The next morning I arrived at the lake house an hour before Angela's emergency family meeting. I parked my car a little down the road, out of sight, and slipped in through the back door. I knew the house like the back of my hand, every creak, every hiding spot. I settled into the small, rarely used pantry off the kitchen, where a vent offered a perfect, if somewhat muffled, listening post to the dining room. Soon I heard their voices. Rhea, Angela, Joshua, Paisley, and Aunt Rachel. The meeting was in full swing, and it was glorious chaos. "This is an outrage," Rhea fumed. "Marissa would never have done this, not to us." "She was clearly senile," Angela declared, her voice sharp. "We need to contest the will. Joshua, you're an accountant. You know how these things work." Joshua cleared his throat. "Contesting a will is tricky, especially with a clear recent document. But there might be other avenues." "What about those loans Grandma made, the ones that were never paid back?" My ears perked up. Unpaid debts? "Oh, those." Rhea waved a dismissive hand. "Just small amounts. And what about that sapphire brooch? The one Angela borrowed for her wedding and never returned." Angela gasped. "Mother, that was a gift. And anyway, Paisley still has Grandma's antique silver compact she found last Christmas." Paisley, indignant, chimed in. "It was practically falling apart. I was going to get it restored." The air was thick with accusations, old resentments, and thinly veiled greed. It was a symphony of their true selves, unmasked. Aunt Rachel, surprisingly, was quiet. Then I heard her voice, softer, more resigned. "Marissa always wanted out, you know, from all of it. The expectations, the pretense. This house, it was her escape. And now maybe it's Paris's." My breath hitched. Aunt Rachel, of all people, understood. Later, after they dispersed, I started looking. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but the mention of Angela borrowing things and Joshua's vague other avenues had sparked a thought. In Grandma's desk, tucked away in a false bottom of a drawer, I found a folder. Inside were copies of legal documents, drafts of a previous will, and a series of emails between Angela and a different lawyer discussing options to ensure the family legacy. One email, dated a year ago, explicitly detailed Angela's attempts to have Grandma Marissa sign a new will, drafted by Angela's own lawyer, that would have divided the lake house among all the grandchildren. Grandma had clearly refused, and the email chain ended with Angela expressing extreme frustration and exploring alternatives. It wasn't a forged will, but it was evidence of intent, of manipulation. Bryce called me later, sensing my heightened state. What would true justice look like, Paris? He asked. Is revenge enough? I looked at the folder in my hand, the pieces of their deception falling into place. No, I said, a cold certainty settling in my gut. Revenge is just the beginning. The next morning I found Angela in the kitchen making herself coffee. Angela, I said, my voice cutting through the quiet, we need to talk about this folder I found, specifically your attempts to forge a will last year. Her face went white. Angela's face, usually so carefully composed, crumpled into a mask of pure panic. Forge a will? What are you talking about, Paris? You're delusional. She tried to laugh, but it came out as a strangled squeak. You're just upset because Grandma left you a house you don't deserve. Rhea, hearing the commotion, rushed in, followed by Paisley and Joshua. What's going on here? Rhea demanded, her eyes darting between us. Paris is making wild accusations, Angela cried, pointing a trembling finger at me. She's saying I tried to forge Grandma's will. Not forge, I corrected calmly, holding up the folder. Attempt to manipulate, to pressure Grandma into signing a new will that suited your agenda? I have the emails, Angela, your communications with a lawyer, detailing your options to ensure the family legacy when Grandma refused to sign. The room went silent. Rhea looked horrified, not for Angela's actions, but for the potential exposure. Paisley, for once, seemed genuinely stunned, her phone forgotten in her hand. Joshua, ever the pragmatist, shifted uncomfortably, his eyes calculating the damage. This is a family matter, Rhea finally said, trying to regain control. We can handle this internally. No, I said, my voice firm. This is a legal matter, and I've already contacted Mr. Davies. He's expecting this folder. Angela's carefully constructed world visibly fractured. You wouldn't dare, she hissed, her voice laced with venom. Oh, I dare, I replied, a cold fire burning in my gut. I remembered the countless times she and Rhea had belittled me, mocked my choices, and then cut me out. I remembered being a teenager, arguing with Rhea about wanting to study art instead of business. Angela always chiming in with, Mother knows best, Paris. Don't be so dramatic. Or the fight after I introduced Bryce. Angela's sneer, he's a nurse, Paris? Really? What will people say? All those years of being told I wasn't good enough wasn't them. This wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about reclaiming my narrative. I'm selling the lake house, I announced, letting the words hang in the air. Their collective gasp was music to my ears, and a significant portion of the proceeds will be donated to the Marissa Zimmerman Women's Shelter. Rhea's jaw dropped. Angela looked like she might actually faint. The Marissa Zimmerman Women's Shelter. Grandma had quietly supported it for years, a fact the family had always dismissed, preferring to focus on her more socially acceptable charitable donations. They'd even denied her request to host fundraising events there, citing reputational concerns. You can't, Angela finally sputtered, her face a mask of disbelief and rage. I can, I said, a slow, triumphant smile spreading across my face, and I will. The room was a tableau of shock, anger, and dawning desperation. They were scrambling, their carefully constructed world of appearances crumbling around them. I felt a surge of power, but beneath it, a strange, hollow ache. This was everything I'd wanted, but the victory felt sharp. The following week, the atmosphere in Mr. Davis's office was even more charged than the will reading. Angela, Rhea, and Paisley were there, looking like they'd been dragged through a hedge backward. Joshua was conspicuously absent, likely calculating his distance from the fallout. Aunt Rachel was also not present, a fact I noted with a quiet sense of relief. I sat opposite them, Bryce by my side, a silent pillar of support. Mr. Davies, ever professional, laid out the documents. Ms. Griffin has formally instructed me to proceed with the sale of the Lakeview Drive property, he stated, his gaze sweeping over the room, and to facilitate a significant donation, as per her wishes, to the Marissa Zimmerman Women's Shelter. Rhea made a strangled sound. Angela's face was a mask of furious disbelief, her carefully applied makeup unable to hide the dark circles under her eyes. Paisley, of course, had her phone out, attempting to discreetly film, but her hands were shaking too much for a steady shot. The local paper had already picked up the story. Heiress donates millions to women's shelter, honoring grandmother's legacy. The article didn't mention the family's attempts to erase me, but the subtext was clear enough. As Mr. Davies finalized the paperwork, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Triumph, yes, a deep, satisfying sense of poetic justice, but also a profound sadness. This was it, the final, irrevocable severing. The facade of family was not just cracked, it was shattered beyond repair. Later, back at the lake house, packing up some of Grandma's personal effects, I found another small leather-bound journal tucked beneath a loose floorboard in her bedroom. Inside, among her elegant script, were a few pages addressed to me. "My Paris," she'd written, "I know this will be hard. They will fight you, they will try to diminish you. But remember, sometimes justice is a daughter's right. Your strength, your kindness, your refusal to be molded into their image, that is your true inheritance. Don't let them take that from you. Live your truth, my dear, and let your actions speak for themselves." Her words were a balm, validating the ache in my heart, the sting of this victory. There was no going back now. The bridge was burned, the ties severed, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. As I left the house, I saw Angela standing by her car, her shoulders slumped. Our eyes met across the driveway. For once she had no cutting remark, no sneer, no performative outrage. She was just defeated, speechless. And in that moment, I knew I had won. Bryce put his hand on my knee as we drove away from the lake house for the last time. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the familiar road. The house, now legally sold, felt like a ghost in my rearview mirror. I had gained a significant inheritance, yes, but the cost felt heavy. The finality of it all, the complete severing of a family, however toxic, left a strange emptiness. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Aunt Rachel. "Paris," it read, "I'm sorry for everything. Marissa would be proud. You did the right thing." A rare olive branch, perhaps, but it felt too little, too late. I simply read it, then put my phone away. The need for their approval, even Rachel's, had finally withered. The bittersweet satisfaction was palpable. Vindication, a triumph over years of emotional abuse and exclusion, but also a profound loneliness. The family I had once craved acceptance from was now irrevocably gone, replaced by a gaping void. It was a victory, but a solitary one. A few days later, Bryce and I visited the Marissa Zimmerman Women's Shelter. The director, a warm, no-nonsense woman named Maria, greeted us with genuine gratitude. Presenting the check, a substantial sum that would make a real difference, felt different from any other financial transaction. It wasn't about me or them or even the house. It was about Grandma Marissa, her quiet strength and her true values. Seeing the impact, the hope in the eyes of the women there brought a quiet catharsis I hadn't anticipated. This was a different kind of justice, one that built up instead of tearing down. As we left, I thought about Grandma's secret kindnesses, the small acts of rebellion against her own family's superficiality, the whispered encouragement, the defended dress, the hidden journal entries. She had always seen me, truly seen me, even when no one else did. Online, the Griffin family was in damage control mode. Angela and Rhea posted carefully worded statements about respecting Marissa's wishes and supporting important causes. Paisley posted a tearful video about the importance of giving back. They were trying to rewrite history, to spin the narrative, but it was too late. I remained silent. My signature on the donation papers, the headlines in the local paper, and the